Even more today. If you guys, of course, want to join in and play, you can. I've only am gonna play a couple times today. I'm probably gonna do 3-4 rounds. I don't really have friends who can join in, so you know. First game on, of course, is gonna be hard. I'm gonna watch some spooky stuff because I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood for spookiness.
I've been delving into mysteries and conspiracies on a daily basis. It's been an amazing journey, and we've featured possibly the
I need to save up my money, remember guys?
But the whole point of a mystery and conspiracy is to get to the bottom of it and debunk or solve the case. So, from the Solway Spaceman, which is an incredibly common, mysterious image that always makes an appearance in videos, to the true identity of Laurie Ruff, here are 5 common mysteries and conspiracies that we can finally put to bed. Sit back and enjoy.
Oh, the sensitivities.
The Solway Spaceman. Back in the late 1950s, early 60s, the world was fired up by the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. And when in 1962, NASA released the footage showing astronauts in their official spacesuits, the image of the spaceman was born. This set the way for a famous photo taken in 1964. Jim Templeton, a fireman from Carlisle, in the UK, took a photograph of his daughter in her new dress. After getting the photos developed, one of the shots showed what appeared to be a spaceman lurking in the background. Alarmed by what he saw, Mr. Templeton took it to the police, who declared there was nothing out of the ordinary. Kodak also got involved and even offered a reward to anyone who could prove the photo was fake, which was never claimed. The image was released to the local press and eventually made headlines around the world, becoming the famous Solway Spaceman. Shortly after, Mr. Templeton revealed that he had had a visit from the mysterious Men in Black, who asked him to take him to the spot overlooking the Solway Firth, where the image had been captured. The two men referred to each other as number 9 and number 11. However, in recent years, and with advanced technology, the mystery of the Solway Spaceman is believed to have been solved. On that day in May 1964, Jim Templeton and his daughter were not the only ones present. His wife Anne was also there. And in the shot before the ones featuring the spaceman, you can see her playing on the floor beside her daughter. She's wearing a pale blue, sleeveless dress. Templeton took 3 photos of his daughter in quick succession using his Kodak camera, and it was the middle one that showed the supposed spaceman. It's now concluded that the spaceman illusion was actually created by Anne Templeton, who inadvertently walked into the spot, unseen by her husband through the viewfinder of his Pentagon F SLR camera that only gave him a 70% view. This is backed up by the other photo taken that day that shows his wife again caught in Templeton's blind spot. The overexposed image of the Solway Spaceman photo makes Anne's dress appear white, and looking at the position of her arms, appears to be the back of her walking out of shot. So although Mr. Templeton was telling the truth about what happened that day, as he wouldn't have seen his wife through the viewfinder, and the photograph wasn't manipulated to change or texted in any way, there is a much simpler explanation. However, as for the Man in Black that visited Templeton, unless he was lying about that, although he solved one mystery, he'd opened the door to another. The Sailing Stones in Death Valley. For many years, sailing stones in Death Valley, California, puzzled scientists. The heavy stones appear to move over the dry lake bed, known as racetrack lakes, often leaving a trail behind them in the mud. Given the fact that some weighed up to 700 pounds, the movement gave rise to a number of theories, including magnetic fields, aliens, wind, and even pulses. The mystery was further deepened, as no one had ever witnessed them moving. The rocks regularly moved as far as 250 meters, seemingly on their own, often creating exquisite curves or dead straight lines. It wasn't until 2006 that NASA scientist Ralph Lorenz finally solved the mystery. Lorenz was studying weather conditions on other planets and was especially keen on comparing the meteorological conditions of Death Valley to those near Ontario Lacus, a vast hydrocarbon lake on Titan, a moon of Saturn. During his investigation, he became intrigued by the sailing stones and set about finding an explanation for their movement. He did this by devising a simple experiment using plastic containers. He placed a small rock in the container and filled it with water until there was just a tiny amount of rock showing just above the waterline. He then placed it in the freezer to produce a small slab of ice with a rock encased in it. The frozen block was then placed in a large pail of water with sand at the bottom. He then blew the encased rock and it moved across the water. As it moved, it formed a trail in the sand at the bottom of the trail. Using this very basic principle, it was estimated that under
welcome.
weather conditions in Death Valley, sufficient water and ice could form to float the rock across the muddy bottom of Racetrack Lake.
I didn't expect getting a viewer just now, but
However,
thanks for watching,
the most plausible
and welcome to the stream.
there are still visitors and conspiracy theorists who believe there is more to it than this.
I don't want to go down there. Don't do it, I'm gonna drown.
The dark side of the moon. For many years,
Okay,
mysteries
we good.
surrounded the dark side, or far side of the moon, as it was alleged that some Apollo astronauts had seen UFOs there, but were told to keep quiet. It sounds hard to believe, but we've talked about it before, and it's actually pretty
Don't do it, don't do it.
Even the communication from the moon back to ground control.
Move, don't.
Was up there. This sparked all kinds of speculation
It's over here.
about extraterrestrial life, alien bases, and alien encounters that were being covered up by NASA and the government. There were also photographs circulating on the net.
No, I shot him. How much health?
On the moon.
Damn it, man. I should have added.
It was even suggested that during the Cold War, the US would allow the Soviet Union to continue testing nuclear weapons, as long as it was done on the far side of the moon. The US had the same idea for themselves. Project A119 was the official name for a top-secret United States Air Force operation in 1958. The plan was to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon, which thankfully never went ahead. The mystery deepened further from an astronomer's point of view, when in 1959, the Soviet spacecraft Luna 3 transmitted the first images from the other side of the moon. Although the quality was poor, it was not what they were expecting. Astronomers had always assumed that the other side of the moon would look pretty much the same as the near side, but it seems to be all mountains and craters, with almost no mountains. The mares, or maria, are the vast dark basaltic plains on the surface of the moon that are visible from Earth. The difference perplexed astronomers for many years, and even ended started projects named the Lunar Farside Islands Problem. It wasn't until 2014 that the reason for this was finally solved. Working on the assumption
Oh, I tagged him once.
created out of a huge object of Earth, and the resulting debris was flung into space and eventually formed the moon. This enormous impact would have left the Earth and the newly formed moon.
He team killed.
Don't forget, the moon was 10 to 20 times closer to Earth than it is today, and would have established this position where only one side ever directly faced Earth. This caused a problem, as while the moon was trying to cool down, the much larger Earth remained red hot, meaning the surface of the moon facing it was being kept molten. Meanwhile, the other side of the moon was slowly cooling. The chemical reactions and the different rates of the two surfaces cooled are what define the different exteriors of the moon, and is responsible for the two sides being so different. To add to this, shortly after the moon was formed, both sides were struck by large meteoroids that punctured through the softer near side of the moon's crust, releasing the lakes of basaltic lava that form the maria, that make up the characteristic man-in-the-moon features. However, the far side of the moon is now cooler with a thicker crust, meaning almost no layers were created. Obviously, this is a simple way of explaining this, and if correct, it means the other side of the moon is not so dark and mysterious after all. But again, as from the transcripts from the Apollo 11 mission, that will always remain a conspiracy. The JFK umbrella man. From the moment President John F. Kennedy was shot, there have been rumours and conspiracy theories surrounding who the real shooter was. And in the aftermath of the assassination, one of the closest bystanders to the event came under intense scrutiny. He became known as the Umbrella Man. The day the president was shot was a bright sunny day, so when footage emerged in the aftermath of his assassination, showing an unknown man with an umbrella standing in proximity to the president moments before he was killed, alarm bells started to ring, especially as the footage showed the man opening his umbrella and lifting it high above his head, then spinning it around just as the presidential motorcade passed. Immediately after the assassination, the man sat down on the sidewalk before getting up and walking towards the Texas school bus repository. There were claims that the umbrella man was acting as a signal, opening his umbrella as a sign to go ahead and shoot, and spinning it around to signal the second round. Other suggestions were that the umbrella contained a dart that was shot at the president to incapacitate him before he was shot. Speculation about the umbrella man rumbled on for around 15 years, but after an appeal to the public by United States House Select Committee on Assassinations, a man called Louis Stephen Witt came forward in 1978. He identified himself as the umbrella man. Astonishingly, he also said that he still had the offending umbrella and did not realize the controversy surrounding him. Obviously, he was questioned about his actions, and his simple explanation was that he had been there that day to heckle Kennedy in protest at his father, Joseph Kennedy, being a known supporter of the Nazi-appeasing British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, whose trademark just so happened to be a black umbrella. When testifying before the HSCA, Witt said, "I think the Guinness Book of World Records had a category for people who were in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing. I would be number one in that position, without even a close runner-up." He was later ruled out from any conspiracies, and unless any new information comes out, the Umbrella Man has not been linked to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The true identity of Lori Ruff. In 2010, Lori Arika Ruff committed suicide. She left behind 2 notes that appeared to make no sense and created a huge mystery for her family and investigators that dated back 30 years. Lori first emerged in 1988 when she requested the birth certificate of 2-year-old Becky Sue Turner, who had been killed in a house fire in Washington State. For the next few months, Lori used the dead girl's name before moving to Idaho, when she legally changed her name to Lori Arika Kennedy. She then moved to Dallas, where she married Blake Ruff, a member of a prominent East Texas family. However, from the start, Arika was cagey about her past, and revealed very little when asked about it. In 2008, the couple
Got his forehead
and moved into Leonard, Texas, where the marriage fell apart, resulting in Lori killing herself on Blake's driveway in December 2010. After her death, Blake and his family searched their belongings for clues to the mysterious past, and although they found things they were unsure of, they were unable to identify who she truly was. The mystery of her identity soon became fodder for the various internet sites, focusing on mysteries and missing persons, including of course this channel. Eventually, a social security investigator called Joe Vellon took on the case. He worked with a genealogist in California named Colleen Fitzpatrick, who used DNA from Ruff's daughter to build a family tree, and she was able to link Lori to a family in Pennsylvania, whose 17-year-old daughter had disappeared in 1986. It was confirmed that Lori Ruff was in fact their missing daughter, and they positively identified her from photographs as Kimberly McQueen. Kimberly had left the family home 30 years earlier after a disagreement with her mother's new husband. The mystery of who Lori Ruff was finally solved, and her name was removed from the federal government database of missing and unidentified persons. So that's 5 mysteries and conspiracies that we can finally call an end to. Now, of course, there will be some...
This week on BuzzFeed Unsolved, we discussed 3 of the most compelling mysteries that suggest the presence of ancient aliens. So, let's drop some sweet knowledge.
I'm already fed up with the folders, by the way. Looks too official, considering the nonsense that is with it.
The existence of aliens or extraterrestrials has long been one of the great mysteries of the world. According to a 2015 survey conducted by YouGov.com, about 54% of America, 56% of Germany, and 52% of the UK believe in extraterrestrial intelligent life. That being said, history seems to indicate that aliens may have visited our world in ancient times, aiding us in the time of civilization. There are cave paintings like this one from Australia that may be up to 5,000 years old that some interpret as creatures wearing spacesuits. Or this painting from 8,000 BC in the Sahara Desert that illustrates what appears to be spacemen leading natives to fly.
Good people. What are you talking about?
I'm just saying what people interpret it.
It's a basket of fruit.
How do you think that's a basket of fruit?
It's just a basket of fruit on their head.
There's two of them baskets of fruit, and
Why is
everyone
that?
else.
Why does that one in the back also have a little basket?
Maybe it's a child. Look how small the rest are. Why are they so large? Here's a drawing of a Mayan carving that shows a man attached to what some construe as an oxygen source as he operates controls in what appears to be a spaceship. Other fascinating objects include this hieroglyph in the Temple of Seti I that dates back to the 14th century BC. The glyph appears to contain hovering spacecraft and modern-day flying machinery such as helicopters.
Why would you need helicopters?
I don't know. Why would they know that? Possibly, I don't know. Why would they know that unless they were there was some kind of intelligent civilization that they didn't that would be able to show these things?
So the aliens show up, show them pictures of helicopters, and fly away.
Well, I mean, this isn't the entire. I mean, this is the stuff that's just part of the.
Well, I can't wait to see the rest of it. Let's see. A poster of the motion picture wedding crash, and well, some lava lamps.
Additionally, a funerary marker from roughly 100 BC shows a woman presenting what some consider a laptop with USB ports.
How do they charge it? I don't know. Why are there USB ports on it if they don't have thumbnails?
I don't know. I'm just saying what.
What are they looking at on it? There's no internet. Do they have Photoshop?
And finally, here's a hieroglyph from Hathor Temple in Egypt that shows workers operating what appear to be enormous light bulbs, perhaps explaining how artists were able to see when drawing elaborate hieroglyphs inside their tombs.
What are you guys? Ryan, here's you with 3 butt cheeks. I've drawn it. Now look at this.
Why do I have little penguin arms?
I don't know. Why do you have little penguin arms? That's a good point. Here's beautiful penguin arms and 3 butt cheeks. I've drawn it, so it must be real.
But beyond these small scattered references to alien and modern technology, there are entire cities, civilizations, and architectural undertakings that make us question if we have always been. What follows are the best mysteries that history has to offer in regards to ancient aliens. The first mystery to discuss is the Dogon and Sirius B. The Dogon are a tribal group from West Africa, south of Timbuktu in the Republic of Mali, that settled sometime between the 10th and 15th centuries. In the 1930s and 1940s, the studies of French anthropologists
No way!
that the Dogon use a surprising amount of modern astronomy. According to their studies, the Dogon believed these things, all of which are scientific facts. The planets orbit the sun. The Earth and other planets rotate on their axis. Saturn has a ring. Jupiter has 4 moons. And finally, that the stars...
I'm gonna say that was kind of a good
The
crutch.
most compelling cases of alien abduction, at least in my opinion.
I mean, the possibility that aliens exist is very likely. I don't know if I believe most of what you're about to say.
I just don't understand how you could believe in aliens, but then just not, believe in the prospect that they could maybe kind of, poke around a little bit. Throw a little rod up your butthole, stuff like that.
I don't know. I don't think that's it. That's it.
Well, I'm gonna get into it now. Here we go. The first case is the abduction of Travis Walton. On Wednesday, November 5th, 1975, Travis Walton was working in a 7-man tree thinning crew in Apache Sitgreaves National Forest near Heber, Arizona. At the end of the day, on the drive back home, Travis noticed a bright light coming through the trees. When the men got closer, they saw that it was, quote, a strange golden disc, end quote, hovering stationary about 20 feet off the ground, with a 15 to 20 foot diameter and 8 to 10 foot width. Though his coworkers warned that he should stay away, Travis approached the craft, hearing loud vibrations as the craft began spinning erratically. Suddenly, a blue-green light sprung from the craft, striking Travis in the chest and head, catapulting him backwards several feet.
Do you think Travis was immune in this situation?
Oh, yeah. Travis is the guy who dies first in a scary movie.
Yeah, because in that situation, I probably would walk toward it, and then that'd be the end of me.
What would your thought be as you walk towards this extremely bright light through the trees?
Like, get a load of this shit.
That's the last thought you'd have in your head?
I'd probably be curious. I'd walk toward it.
What would make you curious enough to walk towards it? What if, because like you have a scientific mind, you see this bright light coming through the trees, what do you think it is at first glance?
Aurora Borealis or something?
You would be the best person to get abducted.
Oh, absolutely. The aliens would get tired of me. They'd kick me off.
You'd be like, oh, good costumes.
Yeah.
Travis remembers, quote, all I felt was the numbing force of a blow that felt like a high voltage electrocution. My mind sank quickly into unfeeling blackness, end quote. Having witnessed this, Travis's friends fled the scene, assuming Travis to be dead.
Aren't these like burly lumberjacks? What are they afraid of?
I mean, I would be afraid of a giant spinning disc that shocked my friend.
It sounds like kind of a funny image when you think of it, though.
A bunch of scared lumberjacks.
No, you're like your big burly friend being like, no, check it out. And it's just, and then everybody just running. You guys all pop out. Yeah, just smoking.
In their retreat, one of the men observed the saucer fly up to the top of the trees and away to the northeast. Some of the men returned to the scene out of guilt, only to find that Travis was no longer there. Well, they went back for him. It took them a day to come to their senses, but if you see some crazy shit, your impulse is to run. At least a normal person's impulse is to run.
Bring a gun.
Sure. Okay, let's pretend they had guns.
Yeah.
There's a giant hovering disc that's spinning at top speed and
Shoot it with your fucking gun.
shot a bolt of lightning through a man's chest. And your solution is to shoot at it with a pistol?
Better than stand there and let it shock you and poop your pants.
How about run? What they did?
Huh?
This is why you would die first in the movie. So basically, what we just went over was the experience as witnessed by all these men. Now, let's board the train to Crazy Town and go into Travis's recollection of what happened when he woke up. And this is only his recollection.
Before we get into this, is there anything we need to know about Travis?
Normal dude.
Normal dude.
Experience. Travis awoke in what appeared to be a medical office or lab with a triangular ceiling among three humanoid beings with large brown eyes and abnormally large heads. They stood under 5 feet tall and were wearing soft, billowy orange-brown overalls.
What? They're like minions?
Like minions.
Now I'm just gonna imagine this guy being operated on by minions.
Travis attacked the 3 beings, who then retreated. As Travis explored other rooms in an attempt to escape, he encountered a large, muscular man wearing a helmet, who forced him out of the craft into a warehouse with other saucers, eventually leading him into another room with 3 more people, all very good-looking. Quote, 2 men and a woman were standing around the table. They were all wearing velvety blue uniforms like the first ones, except that they had no helmets. The 2 men had the same muscularity and the same masculine good looks as the first man. The woman also had a face and figure that was the epitome of her gender. They were smooth-skinned and blemishless. No moles, freckles, wrinkles, or scars marked her skin.
This guy sounds a little bit creepy right now. If you were on a spaceship,
God damn it.
internalizing a lot of information right now, you know, you're surrounded by aliens, suddenly you see other people and you're not like, you don't go up to them and say, hey, what the fuck is going on? Instead, you're looking at them going, no blemishes.
No, I'm just...
Smooth. Porcelain.
I'm
The
imagining...
epitome of her gender.
I'm imagining...
Oh. It's creepy.
The striking good looks of the man I had first met became more obvious on seeing them all together. They shared a family-like resemblance, although they were not identical. End quote. These people gently pushed him onto a table and put a mask over his mouth and nose, at which point Travis passed out. The next thing Travis knew, he was lying on the ground in Heber, Arizona. He saw a silver disc-shaped craft hovering above the road near him, which then flew straight up into the sky and disappeared silently. Although he only believed he was gone for an hour or an hour and a half, he later learned he had been missing for 5 days. Over this period of 5 days, the rest of Travis's crew came under investigation for Travis's disappearance. During this investigation, the suspects underwent psychiatric testing and polygraphs, during which none of the men confessed to faking the abduction. All of the later lie detector tests administered to Travis and the other witnesses came back as passing or inconclusive. A psychiatrist suspected that the entire abduction was in Travis's imagination, but did not explain why the others went along with it. In a recent HuffPost Weird News podcast, Travis said, quote, about 15 years later, it was discovered that the trees nearest to where the UFO hovered had been producing wood fiber at 36 times the rate it had been in the 85 years before that. A complete core sampling revealed that this thickened growth was only on the side of the trees towards or in the direction that the crack had been. End quote. As if this case couldn't get any more bizarre, Travis appeared on Fox's Moment of Truth game show, where a polygraph was conducted on stage. This particular polygraph determined that he was not telling the truth about his abduction. Regardless, Travis maintains that the events transpired as he has told them. His polygraph and all the witnesses' polygraphs that were taken earlier in an official place were all passive or inconclusive. So that's what matters to me. I think this game show thing doesn't include shit.
He's still alive?
He's still alive.
Can't we just... Anytime anyone has inconclusive evidence about a polygraph like that, bring him back in. How hard is that? Where you at, Travis? Where you at?
You want him to tell you about the orange billowy...
I want to hear about it. I want to ask him why he was so obsessed with their skin.
What was the fabric like? Was it denim?
He was fine with
The second case is the abduction of Linda Napolitano. UFOologist Bud Hopkins worked closely with Linda to document and publicize her case. On November 30th, 1989, around 3:15 a.m. in New York City, Linda Napolitano claimed she awoke to find short aliens around her bed. She found herself unable to wake up her husband as she perceived the beings to be telling her to be quiet in an off language. The three beings then levitated her outside her 12th-story apartment window, floating in a blue-white light up into a clamshell-shaped spaceship.
Okay, wait, hang on a sec, though. Let's pause. She thought they were telling her to be quiet. Was she scared? Is this why she just went with it?
I'm gonna assume that there must be some kind of calming influence to them.
Okay.
Like, I don't think they would just go into... Like, you don't break into someone's house and go...
Right, without that person going, what the fuck?
I know, especially if you look like a minion. Once inside, the beings experimented on her, including putting an instrument inside her nose. After, she woke up nearly 2 hours later at 5 a.m., next to her husband in bed. In 1991, 2 years after the abduction, Linda reached out to Hopkins with an X-ray of her nose showing a cylindrical object that Hopkins describes as having, quote, spiraling extensions that curl out away from her face, end quote. The X-ray was taken by podiatric surgeon and Linda's niece, Lisa Bayer. Shortly after, Linda claimed the object was removed during another abduction. Hopkins reports that Linda visited a nose and throat specialist who confirmed the object was gone. A conspicuous ridge of built-up cartilage showed where it had...
Hey, Dr. T here. In this video I am going to show you a fast and easy way to have a lasting, loving relationship.
Come on, skip.
Interested? Don't skip.
Alexa,
By the way,
skip video.
if you don't know about me, I am known as Dr. T. I hold doctoral
Mike is loud as hell. Calm down. If you're a doctor, you should have enough money. Random number from the 90s.
When it comes to looking into topics or mysteries in the internet, I really enjoy topics that are more obscure. It's refreshing to look into things that aren't covered with data, and it allows me to bring attention to something likely close to being solved. The number we're going to be looking into today isn't something I would generally look into or even consider as an internet mystery. It might be arguable, but this isn't an internet mystery whatsoever. This number and all the strange things surrounding it, in essence, is a real-life incident that has only been kept alive by the internet. What we're going to be exploring is 20-some-odd years of first-hand accounts trying to figure out what happened with what may be the most mysterious phone number that existed in the universe. clarify before we go forward, this number is a telephone number, or a 1-800 number, and I'm going to name it momentarily, but I highly advise against calling this number, as not only is it not home to the same owner as it was in the 90s, but it's also home to an erotic hotline. We're going to get into how this number changed ownership here in a bit, but for now, you just need to have a fair warning if you choose to call this number during this video. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get to the number. It's 1-800-GOLF. While that might seem incredibly random, just know that things are about to get a hell of a lot weirder. For further background, we're going to dive into the rumors regarding this number, as it appears countless times in Google searches, and as you'll soon learn, people are just as confused as to what happened to this phone number as we are. At first, I thought this was some prank number that was meant to make you call an erotic hotline, but after messing with all the possible combinations, none of them were even remotely funny enough to make a joke out of. I'm going to leave all of the numbers here on screen and their positions, and maybe you can come up with a combination that will make sense to this entire situation. This mysterious phone number has no discernible understanding, and there's even a website dedicated to submitting the memory to try and figure this thing out. This website is entitled 1-800-GOLF.com. The homepage reads the following: hold the phone. Remember the 90s. Remember high school. Remember calling 1-800-GOLF-TIP? If you don't, you're a fraud. If you do, what the was that? We're here to find out. Please join us as we try to solve this mystery from the past. Since I've read through just about every single first-hand account there is about this telephone number, I want to give you a common consensus of what I found. Essentially, what would occur after calling this number is that a pre-recorded line would play, with a man counting to 10 over and over again, with notable pauses being made on certain numbers, something that varies here with a lot of the first-hand accounts that are on the internet.
No copyright.
Remember a pause around a 6, 7, or 8. The man speaking on the telephone is widely regarded to have an Indian or Middle Eastern accent. A few people also noted that if you left the phone on long enough, a loud scream or a synthetic siren would play to shock listeners in an audible jump scare. By all accounts, the origin of this number is almost certainly in Canada, and in a couple of testimonials, people mentioned the billboard to be the original origin. We're going to touch more on the billboard later, but something I want to point out is that if you Google the numbers associated with this, the only one that comes up transcribed is 1-800-GOLF-TIP. This shows us that this rumor came from some form of source material and not from people dialing numbers randomly. If people were dialing numbers randomly, then they would have come up with different variations of 1-800-GOLF-VIP and so on. This leads me to believe that there was clearly something going on with this number back in the 90s, that this many people would have the exact same memory. I submitted a question to the contact page of the website I mentioned earlier in hopes of getting a first-hand account, but I haven't heard anything back from the site's owner, but maybe they will in the future. Going forward with this search, I decided to look for references to this telephone number anywhere else on the internet in hopes of gathering new information. Unfortunately, though, I was pretty much empty-handed until I came across one Reddit thread from someone who lived in St. Catharines, Ontario, and had seen the billboard go up at the time. This Reddit thread that I found comes from a user named @OIGetJokes, and about 10 months ago, he was in the exact same situation as us today. While most of the info in this thread is stuff we've already talked about, this Reddit thread does have quite a bit of
No, I was bad at
it.
it.
Thread, he outlines his experience with calling the number after seeing the billboard in his town. He states that he used to practice imitating the individual man on the other end of the call after calling the number so much as a kid. The most notable contribution that allows us to confirm that this number exists in the 90s comes from a user in the thread named Cunning Lindy, who found an archived school newspaper from Carleton University, Ottawa, dating all the way back to 1993. Here on this archive, it lists this phone number as a thing that was talked about by students on a list of things they quote liked. In this thread, @OIGetJokes even goes as far as to provide an individual sound file for anyone looking into the topic. Let's take a listen to his impersonation.
6'7", 313. Look at the lower body. Look at that bubble butt.
Come on, I hate ads. This is disgusting, guys. Why is it not skipping? I hate ads. They're just weird.
Here is my imitation of the 100-GOLF-TIP recording. Taking for a couple decades. But the voice went something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 0. Where that pause was, I mean, I remember the breath after the 7, other people remember it sometimes. But I do know that the loop was seamless, almost perfect.
In a further update to this thread, Oh I Get Jokes also mentioned what the billboard looked like. Here's what he had to say. This was 20 years ago, but to the best of my recollection, full color with a close-up of a golf ball, a club angled away from the camera, green grass, and some blue in the upper left. 1-800-GOLF-TIP was in a big, yellow 3D lettering. I reached out to Oh I Get Jokes, and he told me the town it was spotted in was St. Catharines, Ontario. This means that by 1993, this individual number had spread by word of mouth over 600 kilometers. In another 4chan thread from 2017, we learned that the billboard was across from an old Bijou theater, and after reaching out to Oh I Get Jokes and asking about the location, he mentioned that the theater had a Bijou arcade on the first floor and a theater on the second floor. Since then, this theater has been torn down and replaced with Tim Hortons. I even managed to get a picture of what this billboard looks like today. Something to note here is that this billboard is rather small, meaning it wouldn't have been too incredibly expensive in this town. By the way, I linked Oh I Get Jokes down below, as well as this thread, as I'm incredibly appreciative of posters who take time to get back to me within 15 minutes and provide additional info almost a year later after making their post. That being said, as much as I trust very friendly Canadians, I still wanted to look a bit further into this and decided that I'd look into the number itself. This brought me into an entirely separate rabbit hole. By looking into who owns 1-800-GOLF-TIP today, I managed to find a company by the name of Mayfair Communications. The date listed for this number being updated into the 1-800 database is January 20th, 1998. What's interesting here is that this was updated 5 years after it's referenced in the student magazine. Since we have this discrepancy here, I wanted to look into Mayfair Communications as a company to try and figure out what happened to this number. After Googling Mayfair Communications, I found that quite a few businesses came up. We can cross-reference the number we're given on the 1-800 directory, and it gives us this company called Mayfair Communications in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In my opinion, this company seems sketchy. Something to note about Mayfair Communications is when you Google them, a large number of spam reports seems to be associated with this company. Mayfair Communications Incorporated doesn't even appear to have its own website, which is incredibly suspicious. I'm not even entirely sure if Mayfair Communications is still even in business. After doing a bit of digging, I believe this company was taken over by another company called Primetel Communications. What's interesting is that Primetel was also located in Philadelphia, and they own some of the same numbers. My best guess is that Primetel took over the number and never updated the 1-800 record. What's interesting is when you search Mayfair Communications on Google, Primetel even comes up on the first page despite never directly referencing them. After looking into what Primetel Communications does as a company, it's crystal clear as to what happened to 1-800-GOLF-TIP. This company is notorious for hoarding millions of phone numbers and buying them as soon as they expire. This company is well known for redirecting any number it buys to an erotic chat line. This leads me to believe that Mayfair Communications scooped up this individual phone number in 1998 and then was taken over by Primetel, if they're not one and the same. The reason that I believe it's important to understand what happened to Mayfair is that it allows us to rule out that this was ever a joke phone number meant to call an erotic hotline. By referencing that student newspaper, we learned that 1-800-GOLF-TIP did have a previous owner, as it was referenced there. Now the big question still remains though, what is the purpose of 1-800-GOLF-TIP? Why would someone go through all of this trouble just to set up a phone number and perhaps a billboard and get people to call it? I'm going to throw forward 3 theories as to what happened, one of which I favor immensely. Keep in mind, since there's no original recording and all we have are first-hand accounts, it's hard to say anything definite. The first theory that seems to be passed around a lot around this phone number is that this was some kind of social experiment or hoax. But one thing that doesn't line up here is that if this was a hoax just to mess with people, why sink money into it for no payoff potentially? There definitely could have been cheaper ways to get this phone number jump-started. Since you couldn't leave messages for this individual phone line, it's hard to see why someone would get satisfaction out of trolling this way. The only other way to hear about what you had done and set up a billboard and created a graphic for would be from word of mouth. And while this seems possible, let's look into other theories. The second theory is that the person who paid for this billboard passed away or something happened to them after setting it up. They could have used this counting to 10 recording as a placeholder, but that doesn't seem to explain away the scream that was heard at the end, or the siren. The only way to know for sure is to see who paid for the billboard and see if there's an obituary for them, but good luck finding who paid for it. The last theory is the one that I would like to entertain the most, as it requires the least assumptions and provides a motive. I personally believe, after looking into this whole situation, assuming all of the rumors were true, that this was some kind of marketing lead generation tactic. And if you don't know what that means, it was likely a way to collect phone numbers for telemarketing purposes. Caller ID was definitely around at this time, and it could have been a ploy to get people to intentionally call in with a cryptic phone number. That way they could collect active, fresh phone.
This video was made possible by Wix. If you are ready to create a website, head over to wix.com/go/infographics to try out one of their premium plans right now. As you probably know, a wiki is a website which consists of collaborations of people modifying content. The most popular of these sites is none other than Wikipedia. It was launched on January 15, 2001 by Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger. The former once said, "Imagine a world in which every single person on the planet is given free access to the sum of all human knowledge." That's what we're doing. And they did a good job. You can find 301 languages on Wikipedia, but the English language version is easily the biggest. Right now, in English, you can find 5.7 million articles and 46 million pages, which have been edited 860 million times and looked at by 1,203 admins. It's not surprising then that there's some weird stuff you can find on Wikipedia, and that's what we'll look at today. In this episode of the Infographic Show, the 10 scariest Wikipedia articles. Number 10, Ultimate Fate of the Universe. We'll start with this merry page that deals with destruction, the destruction of everything. It tells us that some cosmologists believe the universe will just keep expanding forever. The concept of infinity is hard to get our heads around, but so is the concept of absolute nothing. Nonetheless, there are theories regarding the end of the universe, and none of them sound very nice. We have something called the Big Rip. This is when dark energy gets stronger and gradually starts to pull everything apart. Galaxies move away from each other, space gets bigger, star systems get pulled apart, and you end up with a universe with nothing in it. Then you have the Big Crunch, which is space collapsing into a dimensionless singularity. In this scenario, the Big Bang happens, and then it's followed by the Big Crunch, and the cycle continues infinitely. Then you have the Big Bounce theory, which basically means that the Big Bang was the result of a previous universe collapsing, and so this one will collapse so another can be born. In any case, it's likely that the universe won't disappear during your lifetime, so you don't have to worry. That said, some of the things you're about to hear you probably should be worried about. Number 9, Project MK Ultra. Americans might feel a pang of fear if they head to this page, which tells us about their government conducting very unethical mind experiments on their own people. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the CIA engaged in
You're ready for some extra money. You're ready to refinance your student loans and
Spawn
debt.
kill.
And Citizens Bank is ready to help.
activities, often totally illegal, which used human guinea pigs to test if people's minds could be controlled. They gave some of these people LSD and other chemical concoctions, which was scary enough, but other times they just mentally and physically tortured people, isolated them, or tried to get into their heads using hypnosis. Sometimes these experiments happened in prisons, but they also took place in colleges, universities, and hospitals. It's quite unbelievable what they would try and make test subjects do after, say, a large dose of drugs or days of brainwashing tied to a chair. They try and make subjects age faster or slower, make them go out in public and disgrace themselves, cause them memory loss or brain damage, make them totally dependent on another person, mess up their eyesight and hearing, or even give them substances to physically disable them. This shocking page tells us consent protocols were not followed, and if subjects' heads weren't just messed up forever, sometimes they died. But as it was top secret, we may never know the full extent of the damage. Number 8. Lizzie Borden. This case is unsolved, and so makes for some interesting reading, mainly because right after the murders, she burned the dress she'd been wearing that day. It was suspected she did that because it was covered in blood. Whoever hacked the bodies really put some effort into it, say the reports, but she was never found guilty of the crime, and it remained a mystery. The case of the Axe murders has become one of America's greatest unsolved crimes. If that's not scary enough, though, listen to this. Number 7. June and Jennifer Gibbons. These were identical twins that were born in 1963 and grew up in Wales. They took their closeness to heart and decided that they would not communicate with anyone but themselves. That's why they became known as the Silent Twins. Their parents were from the Caribbean, and so the twins spoke Bajan Creole, which was very hard to understand for anyone living in Wales. Also, they were the only black kids in town, and this led to bullying. This is why the kids decided they wouldn't speak to anyone else. When they did speak, they spoke in a language only they could understand. There is actually a word for twins creating their very own language, and this is called cryptophagia. Crypto means secret, and phasia means speech. Therapists would try and get them to speak to others, but they simply refused to do so. Then the therapists decided to put them in different boarding schools when the twins were 14, but after that, both of them fell catatonic. They were reunited and stayed most of the time in their bedroom together, making plays with dolls. They then both started writing novels about what Wikipedia tells us were people who exhibit strange and often criminal behavior. After that, they got into crime themselves and were eventually committed to Broadmoor Mental Health Hospital. They spent 12 years in there and were often given overly strong antipsychotic medications. The twins made a pact that the only way that one of them could start speaking to other people was if the other gave up her life. And so, one of the twins named Jennifer suddenly got very sick and died. It's a mystery how she died, but it's thought she killed herself. The other twin then started speaking to people. She once said, "I'm free at last, liberated, and at last Jennifer has given up her life for me." She is still alive. Number 6, Dyatlov Pass Incident. Now for more strangeness, this time in Russia. The story is about 9 ski hikers that went on a trip to the Ural Mountains in February 1959 and never came back. They were all experienced outdoors people and all studied at the same university. All we know is that on one bitterly cold night, something made them rush out from their tents, not dressed for such cold temperatures. Later, Soviet authorities found them and they were all dead. One of them had a fractured skull, others had fractured ribs, and one person was missing her tongue and eyes. Wiki tells us 6 of the group members died of hypothermia and 3 of fatal injuries. But to this day, no one knows what happened to those 9 young people. Was it an attack from local indigenous people? Some people thought aliens did it, as flying spheres have been seen in the sky. Was it an avalanche? Was it a secret military exercise? Or was it a Russian Jedi? The truth is out there, perhaps. Number 5, Joyce Vincent. This one is just downright sad, but also strange. Joyce was a British woman who died in 2003 in her small flat in London. The sad thing is that she wasn't found until 2006, when all that remained of her were bones. It said that even though her family life wasn't bad, she distanced herself from her parents. She had jobs and had a relationship, but it said her partner beat her and so she left and didn't want to be found. She died of unknown causes, but it seems no one said anything about her disappearing. As she lied on her sofa dead, the TV played and played, while half of her rent was being paid for by the Metropolitan Housing Trust. It was only when the bills stacked up that housing officials went around to see what was going on. When they arrived, they found letters sent to her from her family. The TV was still playing, and the heating was turned on. They discovered her skeletal remains next to shopping bags and Christmas gifts she had wrapped that we expect she was about to send. A movie was made about her called Dreams of a Life. Number 4, Benjamin Kyle. This is the tale of an American man who had a very bad case of dissociative amnesia, which is memory loss that can go back years. His name wasn't actually Benjamin, but when he was found outside a fast food restaurant in Georgia in 2004, he didn't know who he was, so that is the name he was given, as he believed that could have been his name. When authorities found him and took him to the hospital, the guy was quite surprised to learn he was 20 years older than he thought he was. He spent much of the ensuing years either homeless or working odd jobs, but in 2016, he got a break when DNA samples revealed who he was. His name was, in fact, William Burgess Powell. Number 3, Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter. Do you believe in gremlins? We doubt it, but in Kentucky in 1955, a bunch of people did, or at least they believed they were attacked by little green things. This case is one of the most famous UFO alien sightings in history, only because it all sounds so real. On August 21st, 1955, 5 adults and 7 children went to the local police station, all saying that their farmhouse had come under attack by aliens and they'd been fending them off for about 4 hours. It's true that many gunshots had been fired, as bullet holes were found everywhere. The cops went to look for these 12 to 15 creatures, but they weren't there. The family went back to the farmhouse, but then apparently packed their bags and left when the creatures returned again in the middle of the early morning. Experts have since said that the family wasn't making it up, but they weren't shooting at gremlins, but probably great horned owls. Number 2, euthanasia coaster. This has been called a roller coaster that sends out 24 people and they all come back dead. Hence the euthanasia coaster, but it would also have worked as an execution roller coaster. The concept and scale model were created by Jonas Urbanus when he was doing his PhD at the Royal College of Art in London. Urbanus, who had once worked at an amusement park, said it was a way to die with elegance and euphoria. 24 people would be taken in cars up a steep incline of 1,670 feet. When they got to the top, they had the choice of getting off. If the answer was no, they would be sent at a speed of 110 miles per hour, hurtling down the track towards a series of 12-point inversions that would get smaller and smaller. This crazy ride would kill its passengers by way of cerebral hypoxia, or lack of oxygen getting to the brain. Going around those inversions with the G-force would eventually lead to blackout and then death. Wiki writes, subsequent inversions would serve as insurance against unintentional survival of particularly robust passengers. At the end, there is a place for the corpses to be dropped off, and then it can reload for the new passengers waiting for the last ride of their lives. The ride, not surprisingly, has never been put to the test, but it's still a freaky thing in itself. And finally, number 1, Michael Taylor. This story takes place in Ossett, West Yorkshire, England in 1974. 30-year-old Taylor was a butcher, but it also seems he was known for his very erratic behavior. So much so that it was decided that he might have the devil in him and he should be exorcised. That was performed by an Anglican priest and a Methodist clergyman. They believed that during the exorcism, they cast out at least 40 demons, including those of incest, bestiality, blasphemy, and lewdness. Unfortunately, the 2 men of the cloth were utterly exhausted at the end of it and said 3 demons remained in Michael. Those were the demons of insanity, murder, and violence. They still allowed the young man to go home. When he got home, he attacked his wife. Police found him in the streets covered in blood. The courts said he was insane and sent him to Broadmoor Mental Facility. He did get out, but years later committed more crimes and once again started to look dangerous. He was sent back into psychiatric care, and that's where he remains today. You know what should never land on a scariest anything list? Your personal or business website. And with Wix, there's no reason for that ever to happen. Wix offers over 500 fully customizable templates.
After this round, I'm gonna get off. This is game 7.
And their subscription services offer unlimited bandwidth and even VIP technical support. Plus, with mobile support, your site will always look amazing and load lightning fast on any device. Go to wix.com/go/infographics or click the link in the description and get started building your own great website today. So, have you seen anything on Wikipedia that you think deserves to be on this list? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to watch our other video called Scary Things Found on the Dark Web. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!
This episode is brought to you by Dashlane. Try Dashlane Premium free for 30 days at dashlane.com/infographics. And never forget another password to keep all your online accounts secure. The dark web can be considered dark for a variety of reasons. It's dark in the sense that it's largely hidden from the public view. It's made up of encrypted networks that can only be accessed with special browsers such as Tor. This encryption allows users to have an anonymity that keeps their identities mostly but not completely in the dark. And then there's its dark content. While the dark web contains harmless and other helpful websites, it's best known as a black market for illegal items and a breeding ground for other criminal and inhumane activities. We'll present 5 strange stories from this part of the internet in today's episode of the Infographic Show. Most bizarre dark web stories. 5 Red Rooms. The existence of red rooms is the most popular myth about the dark web. According to journalist Eileen Ormsby, a red room is a website that offers pay-per-view live streaming of someone being tortured and or killed. Red rooms can be interactive too, and viewers have the opportunity to type in torture commands in the chat box. Red rooms are generally thought to be an urban legend due to a lack of solid evidence that they exist. According to a Washington Post article, there is not much more proof of their existence, other than people on Reddit, 4chan, and the Hidden Wiki, trading second and third and fourth hand accounts of red rooms over the globe. In addition, the article points out that red rooms and such operations have never been busted by the FBI's increasingly frequent dark web raids. What also makes people doubt the existence of red rooms are the fake ones that have popped up over the years, such as one that created a stir amongst 4chan and Reddit users in 2015. According to a Motherboard article, the site's owner humorously promised there would be bacon, but the live torture turned out to be nothing more than footage of a man being forced to eat bacon. 4. The Human Experiment. A bizarre dark web website that seems like an urban legend is called The Human Experiment. The website presents the chilling story of what these experiments involve. Test subjects, who are usually homeless people that are unregistered citizens, are taken to one of 4 warehouses where doctors and medical students perform brutal and unethical experiments, such as vivisection, sterilization, and drug trials. There are even tests for neonate and infant tolerances to x-rays, heat, and pressure. The test subjects usually don't live very long, and the website goes into gruesome detail about what happens to them after they die from the experiments. The bodies of the dead are dissected and then disposed of in dumpsters and meat shops, where their bodies will not be found. The Thought Catalog cautions that we may never know whether the human experiment is real or just an elaborate hoax. 3. Cannibal victim ad. In 2018, a 21-year-old Texas man named Alexander Nathan Barter went on the dark web on a horrifying mission. His plan was to find a young girl he could rape, kill, and eat. According to a Daily Mail article, he allegedly wrote a dark web posting for anyone willing to let him eat a young girl and then have sex with the corpse. Instead of finding the victim, however, he caught the attention of an undercover agent. The agent pretended to be a parent, willing to offer up his daughter to him. Barter and the agent set up a meeting via email. Authorities were able to trace the dark web posting to Barter by subpoenaing subscriber information and IP logs, so they were able to arrest him outside of his home on the day of the meeting. He was found with a plastic trash bag and a knife. Barter was jailed and charged with several felonies, including criminal solicitation, attempted capital murder, conspiracy to commit capital murder, and attempted sexual performance of a child. 2. Churchman hires hitman on dark web. A 44-year-old Minnesota man named Stephen Alwine wanted his wife Amy dead. In February 2016, he attempted to hire someone to kill her on the dark web, choosing Bessa Mafia for the job. Months passed, and Amy was still alive. According to Fox 9, the FBI eventually informed Stephen and Amy Allwine that agents had shut down a phony murder-for-hire operation on the so-called darknet called Bessa Mafia. They also learned that someone with the name Dog Day God had transferred $12,000 in untraceable Bitcoin in an attempt to hire a hitman to kill Amy, although some sources say the amount was $6,000. Despite this setback, Allwine would not give up. He came up with another plan to kill her. This time, he would do it himself. A Washington Post article reports that he got a permit for a 9mm Springfield XCS handgun in August 2016. This didn't raise any suspicion because local law enforcement suggested they get increased security. It would be the same gun found near Amy's body on November 13, 2016. She died in her bedroom with a single gunshot wound to her head in what initially appeared to be a suicide. However, a growing body of evidence pointed to Stephen Allwine as her murderer. According to the Washington Post, there was physical evidence. For instance, there was no gunpowder and blood found on Amy's hands, but gunshot residue was found on Stephen's right hand. Another important piece of evidence from Amy Allwine's autopsy was the discovery of a large amount of scopolamine, a nausea treatment that can incapacitate someone who takes high doses. She had no prescription for the drug. Digital evidence linking Allwine to his wife's murder also emerged. Fox 9 reported that computer forensic expert Mark Lanterman discovered a 34-digit Bitcoin address on Allwine's computer. Lanterman found it matched the same address obtained when FBI agents shut down Bessa Mafia, and apparently Allwine was dumb enough to purchase scopolamine under the same alias he used to hire the hit on his wife. A detective discovered Dog Day God also attempted to buy the anti-nausea drug scopolamine on a darknet site called Dream Market. In February 2018, Allwine was found guilty of his wife's murder and sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole for his crime. Some of the circumstances in Allwine that kills his wife are just as bizarre as the killing itself. Before Before the murder, Allline was a church elder at the United Church of God in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. One of the church's duties included acting as a marriage counselor to troubled couples in his congregation. After learning about the infamous adultery website Ashley Madison from his marriage counseling sessions, he ironically began using the service himself. According to the Washington Post, he allegedly had affairs with at least 2 women he met on the site. He wanted to end his marriage, but he had a high position in a conservative church that looked down upon divorce. In his twisted mind, killing Amy seemed to be the best solution to his problem. 1. Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a video game that was supposedly discovered on the dark web in 2015. One horror news website called The 13th Floor describes it as a weird, semi-abstract horror game made up of black and white visuals, obscure ghost children, and a soundtrack of famous serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson. It also features disturbing images such as satanic and Nazi imagery, and creepy backwards speech and music. Oddly enough, there seems to be a message about child abuse in the game. The children are the one who abuse the player in Sad Satan. According to TV tropes, they eventually follow him and harm the player in some version of the game, leading to the player's demise. Sad Satan may seem like an aimless and badly made walkthrough game, but it's far from harmless. The game was featured on a YouTube channel called Obscure Horror Corner, or OHC. The owner of OHC told gaming website Kotaku that he downloaded it from an Onion site on the recommendation of a subscriber. But OHC's owner eventually had to delete the game because it came with a file that freaked him out. According to TV tropes, OHC's owner also eventually admitted that he posted the wrong link to the game on his YouTube channel after he discovered the game contained illegal images of minors and actual snuff that he did not want to spread on the internet. Different versions of the game have been made over the years. There are some clean clones, but others are not. Besides graphic and horrific content, TV tropes states that some versions of the game are downright dangerous to play because they mangle your computer. There's been a lot of speculation about why the game was made. The 13th Floor states that some people believe it's a sting from police or a recruiting tool for cults. One news website presents the possibility that the game might have been the starting point for an alternate reality game or part of some narrative project or viral marketing scheme. According to TV tropes, another theory is that the game was part of a publicity stunt to popularize OHC. We may never know if this theory is accurate. While the game has remained in the spotlight, OHC's owner has disappeared along with the original version of the game. The dark web can be home to some pretty bizarre stuff. But did you know that right now it might also be home for your personal data up for sale to the highest bidder? Thankfully, with a tool like Dashlane and its free dark web scan, hackers may be buying and selling that's yours. But you can also protect yourself online by using auto-generated super strong passwords that are unique to each account. Dashlane's password manager tools helps keep you secure while keeping your life simple. Head on over to dashlane.com/infographics for a free 30-day trial. And if you use the coupon code infographics, you can get 10% off a premium subscription today. Do you know of a bizarre dark web story that we missed? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called How to Access the Dark Web. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Imagine the World Wide Web as an iceberg. Most of what you use is the part above water, the part of the internet you use normally. But that's a part you don't normally see, what lurks beneath the water. Today, we look at the darkest parts of the dark web in this episode of the Infographics Show. 11 scary things found on the dark web. Number 11, mail order drugs. We'll start with something that isn't too scary, but it's still quite surprising how many people use the dark web to buy their drugs. According to the Global Drug Survey in 2018, a quarter of British drug users shop for their gear on the dark web. The deliveries usually come by post, and buyers seek good ratings and reviews before they take the risk of sending money. The founder of the survey told the independent newspaper that with all those irksome CCTV cameras in the UK, the dark web delivery was hitting an all-time high. Recent arrests included guys from Wales who was mailing the dangerous drug fentanyl all over the world. They look for convenience, product range, quality vendor ratings, said the researcher. He also said that most of the dark web drugs buyers were young. This might not shock some of our wayward youth, but what's coming is worse. Number 10, human products. Okay, let's get strange. Like fashion? How about products